Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're having one of those cheerful days. We're excited and we're ready to go into the study of looking into how we can be more effective in doing Dawah Ilallah, calling people to submit to Allah. Using different aspects of studying the comparative sciences to make it effective for us in calling people, or making our Dawah effective in calling people to submit to God. Many times when we speak to people about Islam, they have many misconceptions about Islam. And in my community that I work in South Africa, and those people in Germany as well, a lot of Germans have the same issue, and those who are in India have this issue as well. And that is, why is it that you Muslims are anti-vegetarian? Why do you people project this idea of, eating meat? You disrespect vegetarians, you don't like the idea of a person being a vegetarian. This is nonsense. There is nowhere that Muslims say that you cannot be a vegetarian. You're welcome to be a vegetarian. You're welcome to eat nuts for the rest of your life and never eat anything else. You're welcome to be a fruitarian, or if there is such a word. Just eat fruit for the rest of your life. I myself am not a meat eater. So you are quite welcome to do whatever you like, as long as it is not breaking the Sharia. So there are certain things that we are not permitted to eat, certain things we are not permitted to drink. Other than that, you have the freedom of choice. You can make that decision up for yourself. So there are a great number of Muslims throughout the world who are health conscious. Many, many Muslims, especially in Germany, Africa, in India, people are very conscious of what they put into their bodies. Other countries in the world, they like to eat meat for breakfast, lunch and supper. They have meat with their meat. Some people have vegetables with their meat. They like to have meat with their meat. In South Africa, who are known as the Afrikaans people, these are the people from Dutch or French descent. And they will have 4 different meats on their plate with no vegetables anywhere to be seen. They're quite happy to be carnivores. There's nothing wrong with that. If they want to do that, you keep eating that meat. Good luck with the cholesterol levels. But you can do whatever you like, as long as you're not doing things that are against and what are not permissible in Islam. For example, we don't eat pork. We don't eat things that eat other things. So we're not going to go and eat a lion or a tiger or a leopard or a cheetah, because that thing is already eating something else. And that thing won't be the nicest thing to eat, I can promise you. We don't eat crocodiles. We don't eat alligators. So there are certain things that we don't eat, but the rest of it we can eat. What about, can we eat a dolphin? Not that we would eat one. Yes, you can. But you couldn't eat something like a crocodile or an alligator. There are different rulings on these things. You have to look at what the rulings are. But if you want to be a vegetarian, there's no problem with that. So this is a misconception that often people have about Islam, that Islam only promotes meat eating. You're welcome to have your pizza without any meat on. You can do whatever you feel like, as long as it doesn't break the rules. But many of these vegetarians will say, but you guys are inhumane on the way you treat animals. Because you eat meat, you're inhumane way. Now, like I said to you before, I don't eat meat. If I come to your house and you offer me chicken, I'll eat it. If I come to your house and you offer me a nice lamb curry, I'll eat it. I'm not going to make an issue about it. But my own choices, I choose not to. And I'll give you a few small reasons. I'm not asking you all to go now and stop eating meat because of this. But the reason I don't eat meat has got nothing to do with the animal. It's got to do what the animal is given, is why I don't want to eat meat. Today, we don't get meat like we did before. Today, people farm animals. And because time is money, you want the animal to grow as quickly as possible. So along comes the vet, and he gives an injection to the animal, quite often, called growth hormones. Helps it grow faster. Steroids is sometimes better known. And those steroids remain in the meat no matter what happens. So when you're eating your nice little steak, or you're eating your mutton curry, or whatever it is, you're also eating all the steroids that were put into that animal, which will affect your biology. But other than that, they also put in antibiotics and other medication, which when you get sick and you need antibiotics, they don't work as effectively because the meat is filled with all those antibiotics already. So those are the reasons I do it. Not because of the animal, but because of what they give the animal. So these are the reasons why I don't eat meat. But if I eat meat, it'll be very seldom. So there's very small chances of having side effects from what's been put in the meat, the additives that have been put in. Can you eat meat that doesn't have this? Of course you can. You can go to small holdings, small farmers, not the big commercial ones. They can't afford to give all these inoculations to the animals in the first place. And they'll be very, very happy that you're buying meat from them, or buying a sheep from them, or whatever. And you can slaughter it the correct way. You know that at least the animal's done properly. And then it's fine. You can eat as much meat as you like. In Africa, I could do this, but I'm just too lazy to drive all the way or go all the way to go do this. So I just choose rather not to. In Islam, an animal is slaughtered in a way that we call halal. Have a halal way and a non-halal way. Non-halal way is the way that those vegetarians who are complaining about the way the Muslims do it, you need to go see how the rest of the world do it. There are many different ways that they put down an animal. And I'm sorry if it gets a little bit graphic today. The one way is to electrocute the animal. So the animals will walk into an area, whether it be a cow, or whether it be goats, or whether it be chickens, or whether it be sheep, whatever animal they're going to kill. They walk onto a floor where it is wet and they electrocute them. They get shocked. It's a bit of a difficult way because now you have to pick up animals and all sorts of other. So less and less places are actually doing it that way these days. And the other way is that the animals are like on a conveyor belt. A rope is tied to them. They swing upside down while they're still alive, still panicking and freaking out and screaming and making all sorts of noise, seeing all the other animals screaming and going through the same terror and torment. And then they are guillotined while the animal is still moving. But these guillotines are not nice, sharp instruments. They're very horrid and very crude, very hard metal hitting against it, almost breaking the neck of the animal. The third method is a gun that is used, but it's not a bullet. It's a piece of metal that comes in and out of the weapon. So they pull it back, they shoot, hits the animal in the head, sort of stuns it a bit, and then you pull it back and you do it again and again and again. It's called a bolt method. There are many, many methods. All of them are barbaric, all of them are very, very painful, and all of them create a great deal of stress to the other animals around. There is no separation of the animals when this takes place. It's like a chaotic experience. Some of the animals, their hearts are still pumping. Most of the animals, in fact, their hearts are still pumping. When the next person comes along and grabs a knife, a very sharp knife, and pulls down the animal, its entrails start to fall out everywhere, and it is still alive when this takes place. And then it is taken further along, and if they see that the animal is still alive at that point, then somebody might shoot it again or electrocute it again. This is the normal way your meat is given to you at your table. In Islam, this is not permissible because we as humans have a responsibility over that animal. We give you a humane way of dying. We don't make you suffer. We don't torture you. We don't make you see the suffering. So in Islam, we respect and we care for animals. We are not permitted to keep animals locked in cages the entire life where they never see daylight, never see real food, never see each other, boxed in where they never get to experience life, like we see in the way the non-Muslim community look after the animals. Some cows, some sheep, some goats, and most chickens and fowls never, ever, ever get to move their legs, never get to move their bodies. They are basically stuck in a little box that almost fits them in, and they are force-fed with a tube. Their beaks are cut so that they don't peck or injure the neighbor next to them. Their feet don't develop because they never get to move. They are deformed. The vast majority of your food that you're eating, that's how it looks before it gets slaughtered. It is force-fed. Something is forced down its throat. It doesn't even want to eat, it has to eat to make it grow quickly. In Islam, this is not permissible. The animal must be free. It must not see the suffering of another animal, let alone suffering itself. It must be allowed to be an animal, not to be a factory. That animal, when it is time for it to become part of the food chain for us to eat as humans who want to eat it, the animal is put on its side, preferably, so that it is in a calm state. If you take a crocodile and you rub your hands on its belly, if you have the opportunity to do that, it just lies there, doesn't move. Won't try and attack you, won't try and snap you. You can open its jaw and put your head inside its mouth and it won't do anything. because it goes into like a trance. You've seen things where people are doing that with chickens. Seen it on YouTube and things like that, where they take a chicken, they turn it upside and put it there, and it looks like the person's hypnotized it. But when you put an animal on its side or on its back, it goes into what looks like a trance. It looks like it's totally relaxed. This is not a trick. This is just the way Allah has created this animal to be at its most passive state. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we will continue with this, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're talking about vegetarianism, food, slaughter, the whole lot, all thrown into one. You have to explain this to people. Many times it comes up. So we said when you take an animal like a sheep or a goat or even a chicken or whatever it is, and you turn it on its side or you turn it on its back and you lie it down, even crocodiles do this. If you turn them on their back, they just lie there. It's not almost, it has been programmed into the animal. When this experience takes place, be at your most calmest and your most relaxed state. Some of the hypnotists that you see on television or going from place to place, they do this and they pretend that they hypnotize the chicken or they hypnotize, but every animal will do this. You can do this yourself at home. You can test if you're living on a small holding, you have an animal, you'll see that it happens with every animal. And so the animal is put down, it's given water to calm it, make sure it's totally relaxed. And a very, very sharp knife is taken. This knife has to be prepared in a special way. It can't just be some knife that you bought in the corner shop. It has to be a proper slaughtering knife. That if you had to take that knife and you just had to touch your finger, you would feel the cut. It must be very, very sharp. And one swift action, the animal is bled. And the blood comes out so fast that less than 2, 3, or 4 seconds it becomes unconscious. Often we see in society, to give you an example of how we know this is so effective. There's been scientific experiments done with this. YouTube is full of the scientific experiments to show you that this is the most humane way. But let's say that you're not interested in the scientific method. You want proof from a human point of view. You're looking at it from a human perspective. And you're not interested in what science has to say about all the proofs that they might have scientifically. You might be one of those hard people that don't want to listen to science. It's fine. One of the favorite ways that human beings like to commit suicide is hanging themselves. Do you know that? Not slitting your wrists, shooting yourself, hanging yourself. You ever wondered why? I mean, it seems like the worst way to commit suicide. But what happens when somebody hangs themselves is your jugular veins are here. When the rope pushes, it closes off the blood circulation to the brain. And you pass out long before, you lose consciousness long before you even begin to choke. Within 5 or 6 seconds, you lose consciousness, and so you faint. And then you choke to death. You stop getting oxygen in, but you're no longer conscious of that. So that's why it's the preferred method. That's why millions of people in many cultures in the world find that a better method. Now, we're not saying anyone go do that. But we're saying that the logic behind it is the same logic that Muslims have with the animal. We don't shoot the animal because most people who have tried to kill themselves by shooting themselves don't get it right. 9 out of 10 suicide attempts with a gun fail. And what happens is they're left with a disfigured body, nose blown off, cheekbone taken out. I told you it's going to be graphic. When we look at people slitting their wrist, how many have been successful? Very few. People taking overdoses, very few. People electrocuting themselves, very few. So the method of having an animal killed the way we do it in Islam is the most effective because it severs the blood that goes to the brain, and therefore the animal dies before he dies. He's dead before he's dead. His consciousness is gone. The idea and feeling of pain is gone. So it's the most humane possible way that you can do it. So in Islam, the animal needs to be raised properly. The animal has to be fed properly. The animal has to be given the most humane way off this planet as possible. You find that in no belief system in the world. Even a carrot is taken out of the ground with more force than an animal is treated when we kill it. So the vegetarian who's pulling that carrot out of the ground doesn't go to the greatest extent that we go to in making sure that the animal has its rights and its responsibilities looked after. This is phenomenal. So make sure you find out how the animal is kept. Is it in the same way as this? You cannot make that animal halal if it's been brutalized like that. And then say, no, the animal didn't feel anything. It felt lots. It saw everybody else being slaughtered. And so you have to follow the slaughtering process. There is a Russian brother who has a video on YouTube where he shows the benefits and the successes of how to do free-range farming. How it can be beneficial and how you can make money out of it. So people will say free-range farming doesn't work. He is showing you in his video, he's a Muslim, on how to do free-range farming, how to treat your animals with respect, and how to slaughter them in the Muslim way. Everything is shown. It's very visual. So you're going to see blood, you're going to see guts, you're going to see gore. But this is what we need to know. We need to know how it's done. And you can see for yourself. You can watch the video yourself, and you can see how the slaughter is done. If you're a vegetarian and you're watching this, and this might seem very gruesome to you, like I said, you have the right to remain a vegetarian. No one's forcing you to eat meat. But I can assure you that the way that Muslims are doing it, and by the evidence that you can go and see for yourself throughout the internet, and throughout YouTube and all the other places that you can go and look at this, is far more humane. 1,000% more humane. Not that there's such a thing, but 100% more humane than any of the other systems that are accessible to mankind. So the best and the most humane way is the way that Allah has given us for an animal to be put down. So we as Muslims are not barbaric. We are not unkind. We are not trying to hurt the animal in any way. We are trying to, as much as possible, respect the animal and not go to the extreme where we start to think that the animal is some type of demigod or something. But we are respecting that animal's right. Just like we respect everything. We respect the plants. We respect the trees. We respect the environment. Our responsibility as human beings is to protect the environment. Is to not take a piece of paper once you've eaten your chocolate or your sweets or your beverage and throw it out the window. It's not permissible for us to do that. If you're doing that, you need to stop doing that. You need to take that garbage and throw it away in the right place. You are given as a steward on planet Earth to look after these things, to respect the rights of everything that Allah has created. So we as Muslims have a great deal of respect for the environment, great deal of respect for the animals, to protect all the different species. You see, what we're talking about is more carnivorous animals, like animals that are like lions, leopards, things like that, are ferocious. But generally speaking, you don't find chickens going and eating chickens. Like chickens will normally eat little worms, they'll eat insects, things like that. They won't go around looking for a cow to eat, or a chicken, or a rat to eat. They generally stay away from this. But we're talking for the sense of dawah. So you're giving them a basic understanding of how Islam treats and respects the rights of animals. That we actually do respect the rights of animals. That we do care about the environment. It's not like we're just saying this. We actually do. And I'm so happy and so pleased that many of our Muslim brothers and sisters who own farms and own these animal breeding colonies, they are very, very good with the animals. Generally speaking, 90% of them are really good, and they follow the Sharia on how to raise animals, how to feed animals, and how to slaughter animals. But there are some people who are just in for the money. Everybody's in for the money if you're a farmer. That's why you're doing it. But some people go beyond the rulings and they think that it's okay to hurt the animal, injure the animal, and maim the animal, and then think you, just by slaughtering it in the name of Allah, that it's acceptable. It's not just the way it is killed, it's also the way it's treated, that it doesn't go through pain and suffering. So this is what we have to understand. So inshallah, hopefully that answered some of your questions. Well, that's all the time we have for today's program. Do more research on the topic. I'm not the beginning and end all of this. You need to go do more homework, research it, and find out more about how we as Muslims are supposed to treat animals. So that's all the time we have for today's show, so make sure you join us again. So from me, Areeb Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
مشفق متعطف